Okay, so we're going to read the Grimm brothers story, The Spirit in the Glass Bottle, and then kind of talk about our ideas about it.
Sounds good.
The Spirit in the Glass Bottle. Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter who worked from morning until late at night. When he had finally saved up some money, he said to his boy, "You are my only child. I want to spend the money that I have earned by the sweat of my brow on your education. Learn an honest trade so you can support me in my old age when my limbs have grown stiff and I have to sit at home." Then the boy went to a university and studied diligently. His teachers praised him, and he remained there for some time. After he had worked through a few classes, but was still not perfect in everything, the little pittance that his father had saved was all spent, and the boy had to return home to him. "Oh," said the father sadly, "I cannot give you anything more, and in these hard times I cannot earn a heller more than what we need for our daily bread." "Father dear," answered the son, "don't worry about it. If it is God's will, everything will turn out well for me. I will do all right." When the father said he was going into the woods and earn some money by cutting cordwood, the son said, "I will go with you and help you." "No, my son," said the father, "you will find it too difficult. You are not used to hard work and will not be able to do it. Furthermore, I have only one axe and no money left to buy another one with." "Just go to the neighbor," answered the son. "He will lend you his axe until I've earned enough to buy one for myself." So the father borrowed an axe from the neighbor, and the next morning at daybreak they went out into the woods together. The son helped his father and was quite cheerful and full of energy. When the sun was directly above them, the father said, "Let us rest now and eat our noon meal. Then all will go twice as well." The son picked up his bread and said, "Just you rest, father. I am not tired. I will walk about a little in the woods and look for birds' nests." "Oh, you fool," said the father, "why do you want to run about? Afterwards you will be tired and no longer able to lift an arm. Stay here and sit down beside me." But the son went into the woods, ate his bread, was very cheerful, and looked into the green branches to see if he could find a bird's nest. He walked to and fro until at last he came to an enormous oak that was certainly many hundred years old, and that 5 men would not be able to span. He stood there looking at it and thought, "Many a bird must have built its nest in that tree." Then suddenly he thought that he heard a voice. Listening, he became aware of someone calling out with a muffled voice, "Let me out! Let me out!" He looked around but could not see anything. Then he thought that the voice was coming out of the ground, so he shouted, "Where are you?" The voice answered, "I am stuck down here among the oak roots. Let me out! Let me out!" The student began to scrape about beneath the tree, searching among the roots, until at last he found a glass bottle in a little opening. Lifting it up, he held it against the light, and then saw something shaped like a frog jumping up and down inside. "Let me out, out, let me out," it cried again, and the student, thinking no evil, pulled the cork from the bottle. Immediately a spirit ascended from it and began to grow. It grew so fast that within a few moments a horrible fellow, half as big as the tree, was standing there before the student. "Do you know," he cried in a terrifying voice, "what your reward is for having let me out?" "No," replied the student fearlessly. "How should I know that?" "Then I will tell you," shouted the spirit. "I must break your neck for it." "You should have said so sooner," answered the student, "for then I would have left you shut up inside. However, my head is going to stay where it is until more people have been consulted." "More people here, more people there," shouted the spirit. "You shall have the reward you have earned. Do you think that I was shut up there for such a long time as a favor? No, it was a punishment. I am the mighty Mercurius. I must break the neck of whomever so releases me." "Calm down," answered the student. "Not so fast. First, I must know that you really were shut up in that little bottle, and that you are the right spirit. If you can indeed get inside again, then I will believe you, and you may do with me whatsoever you want. The spirit said arrogantly, "That is an easy trick," pulling himself in and making himself as thin and short as he had been before. He then crept back into the opening and through the neck of the bottle. He was scarcely inside when the student pushed the cork back into the bottle and threw it back where it had been among the oak roots, and thus the spirit was deceived. The student was about to return to his father, but the spirit cried out pitifully, "Oh, do let me out! Oh, do let me out!" "No," answered the student, "not a second time. I will not release a person who once tried to kill me, now that I have captured him again." "If you will set me free," cried the spirit, "I will give you so much that you will have enough for all the days of your life." "No," answered the student, "you would cheat me like you tried to the first time." "You are giving away your own good fortune," said the spirit. "I will not harm you, but instead will reward you richly." The student thought, "I will venture it. Perhaps he will keep his word, and in any event he will not get the better of me." So he pulled out the cork, and the spirit rose up from the bottle as before, and extended himself, becoming as large as a giant. "Now you shall have your reward," he said, handing the student a little rag that looked just like a small bandage. He said, "If you rub a wound with the one end, it will heal, and if you rub steel or iron with the other end, it will turn into silver." "I have to try that," said the student. He went to a tree, scratched the bark with his axe, then rubbed it with the one end of the bandage. It immediately closed together and was healed. "Now it is all right," he said to the spirit, "and we can part." The spirit thanked him for having freed him, and the student thanked the spirit for the present and returned to his father. "Where have you been running about?" said the father. "Why have you forgotten your work? I said that you wouldn't get anything done." "Don't be concerned, father. I will make it up." "Make it up indeed," said the father angrily. "Don't bother. Just watch, father. I will soon cut down that tree there and make it crash." Then he took his bandage, rubbed the axe with it, and struck a mighty blow. But because the iron had turned into silver, the cutting edge bent back on itself. "Hey, father, just look what a bad axe you've given me. It is all bent out of shape." The father was shocked and said, "Oh, what have you done? Now I'll have to pay for the axe, and I don't know what with. That is all the good I have from your work." "Don't get angry," said the son. "I will pay for the axe." "Oh, you blockhead," cried the father, "how will you pay for it? You have nothing but what I give you. You have student's tricks stuck in your head, but you don't know anything about chopping wood." After a little while, the student said, "Father, I can't work any longer after all. Let's quit for the day." "Now then," he answered, "do you think I can stand around with my hands in my pockets like you? I have to go on working, but you may head for home." "Father, I am here in these woods for the first time. I don't know my way alone. Please go with me." His anger had now subsided, so the father at last let himself be talked into going home with him. There he said to the son, "Go and sell the damaged axe and see what you can get for it. I will have to earn the difference in order to pay the neighbor." The son picked up the axe and took it into town to a goldsmith who tested it, weighed it, and then said, "It is worth 400 thalers. I do not have that much cash with me." The student said, "Give me what you have. I will lend you the rest." The goldsmith gave him 300 thalers and owed him 100. Then the student went home and said, "Father, I have some money. Go and ask the neighbor what he wants for the axe." "I already know," answered the old man. 1 thaler, 6 groschens. "Then give him 2 thalers, 12 groschens. That is double its worth and is plenty. See, I have more than enough money." Then he gave the father 100 thalers, saying, "You shall never need anything. Live just like you want to." "My goodness," said the old man, "where did you get all that money?" Then the student told him everything that had happened, and how by trusting in his luck he had made such a catch. With the money that was left, he went back to the university and continued his studies. And because he could heal all wounds with his bandage, he became the most famous doctor in the whole world. Well, yeah. So you had originally sent me like a telling and an interpretation of this story, and we'd both kind of listened to it in a podcast, and I'll link to it in the show notes and everything. But I don't know. I thought we might go through this kind of. We've kind of done this before, but kind of go through it line by line and everything, um, or so. But is there something that stands out to you about this story, or what do you think about this story? I know we talked about this in terms of personal genius or daimon.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. The story to me is one of sort of trust. I mean, he mentions trusting his luck pretty explicitly, but I feel like the whole thing kind of hinges on that, especially with the way the father figure is brought in um, as almost like a almost like an adversary or something um, compared to the student. And the spirit that is locked up inside of us all and the gifts that it can bring and the dangers that it can bring, I think
Hmm.
are what the story is pointing to. But there's a lot of fun imagery in it. And yeah, I really did like that podcast. I don't want to reference it too much because I don't want to just um sort of hang our conversation on his, but that was Michael Mead with I think it's the Living Myth podcast. So you said you'd put a link in, but I just wanted to drop his name. He's a pretty great man. A lot of his stuff is really good, and he's been doing this kind of thing for a long time. So it really he's seasoned in it, and it goes well.
Yeah, I did think that was pretty good. But yeah, we're sort of doing our own thinking about this.
Yeah.
So yeah. So do you want to go through it kind of line by line, or not exactly line by line, but just sort of talk about it from the beginning to the end?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good.
One
Be
thing
like,
I thought was that, so I mean, this starts off as a normal story in a way where there's a poor woodcutter and he would like his son to kind of do well and kind of do better than he wants him to. So he gives him money to go to school so that he doesn't have to toil with his hands. I mean, this is kind of a story that many of us know. But then there is, like in many of these stories, the sort of fly in the ointment, or the it doesn't quite work out and the money runs out and now they don't really know what to do. And so the problem comes in, and this is like many of these fairy tales where, like with Hansel and Gretel or Jack and the Beanstalk, they're, you know, what they normally do to make their way in the world and to survive is no longer working. So now what are they going to do? Are they going to double down and kind of keep their nose to the grindstone and keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, or what? And so that's where I feel like the story kind of starts.
yeah, and I think you point to an important part of it in that the father is his mindset, I think, is very clear. Like they don't, he's kind of a one-dimensional character, I guess, but it's a fairy tale, so who cares? But he is very focused on work. He seems very certain that he won't do very well. Oh, I can only scrape this pittance. Oh, what was it? You are my only son. I want to spend the money that I have earned by the sweat of my brow for your education, so you can support me in my old age. Oh, I thought there was something. Yeah, the little pittance from his father was all spent, and the boy had to return home.
Mm,
There it was. Um, and yeah, just the way that the father's perspective is one of, like you said, nose to the grindstone, just have to work really hard, and and you can feel his emotions, especially later on in the story when he's in the woods with his son. You can see how little room there is for like joy or play or wonder in his life. You know, he's like, "Oh, why are you running around? You're going to waste your energy. And where have you been? And oh my God, what are we going to do?" Like he's carrying so much stress inside of himself, which is understandable. If he's a poor woodcutter and he's lived this life of poverty, you know, that can happen to the best of us. But I also think you can look at the tale as, like I always do, if they're different parts of the same person, like inside all of us there's this younger part, you know, the son, there's this younger part that's kind of a little more carefree, a little more trusting in our luck, a little more, I mean, the son says, the son seems very blessed. um he says, "Father dear, don't worry about it. If it's God's will, everything will turn out well for me. I will do all right." And he represents that belief throughout the whole story, and you can contrast that very much with the father's belief of, no, I have to work as hard as I can, and that will barely cover our daily bread, and you're useless and I can't count on you, and I don't even have a second axe for you, and how do I get a second axe? And
mm,
oh, what do we do? Oh, now your axe is broken and I have to pay for that. And it's just the
mm,
stress, the constant stress that
mm,
he's perpetuating on some level, which is understandable given his past. But you have to ask, you know, if I'm the father's therapist or something, it's like, hey, is all of this worry actually serving you? Is it
mm.
actually like bringing you a benefit, or is it just an extra weight that you're carrying around? I mean, I don't know if you would ask something that direct in therapy, but since we're talking about it, instead of
Mm,
me, being in therapy with this guy, I think it's a fair question because
mm.
the son shows that that's not true.
Yeah, either way, yeah, these two characters are very contrasted in their idea of how to go forward in life. And I think the father did have this idea of going forward in a different way. He didn't want the son to be a woodcutter. And yeah, I looked at it like he has the son go to school, so this is something that's like unfamiliar to him. He's looking to solve the problem of needing money in the future in a different way. So it does exhibit some kind of creativity or some flexibility. But yeah, when it doesn't work out, then yeah, he doesn't know what else to kind of do. And so yeah, so then the son kind of yeah, he does have some flexibility. So, and maybe that comes from like you're pointing to with the childlike kind of play of his and his faith. You know, the faith in his luck, you could say that's the faith sort of that he will be able to do what something that works out, which later shows up with the genie, a genie in the bottle, or I'm calling it a genie, but we can call it
It has
what
that
we
feeling,
want.
which is odd for a Brothers Grimm story, you know,
Yeah.
more Arabian Nights than Brothers Grimm, but who's to say?
And I recently learned that the idea of the genie, like that we get from the Arabian Nights story, is actually that word, that genie in Arabic, is thought to have actually come from their contact with the West and is etymologically linked to the Roman idea of the genius. So that
Oh,
kind of is something that comes back to us through. So it is, and it is sort of satisfyingly clear that yeah, this genie like thing in the bottle is therefore a genius, an essential nature, you know, and whether we want to say it's of the boy or of the tree or of life or, you know, something of the story itself, you know, we can kind of get into that. But
yeah,
yeah, I thought
yeah. I
that
have
was
a
a
lot to
cool
say.
thing.
lot to say about that, but that's neat. I hadn't really put that together. Like I've heard of the idea of the genius, both as like a personal entity in like Roman spirituality or religion or whatever you would call it, and then also like the genius loci, which is like the spirit of the place. So you go,
Oh,
a
wow.
river or a waterfall or a forest or a tree, just something like the feeling of a place where it feels like it's got a living nature to it, and not just
Yeah.
like nature, but like, oh, something is here, some presence is here.
Yeah, I like that idea. I didn't know that there was something like that. I thought in Japan they tend to have that idea in spades, like even nowadays, like when they open a new building, they'll do some ceremony, some kind of propitiation to the god of that building or that land or something like that. And I wonder if that might come back in some way. And I feel like just linking spirit to land is kind of maybe something that we're lacking and maybe would kind of help with our feeling of connection to the world because we're so
Yeah,
abstract, and then it gets into just numbers and money and property and things, and that sort of seems like everything's like abstract to us, and I wonder if that's kind of part of our meaning crisis.
I would think so. I mean, I think it's impossible to have a meaningful relationship with something when you think it's an object,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah,
that's a
that's a good
person or a
point.
tree or a forest or a mountain or. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you're objectifying it. It's separate from you, and it's to be just calculated or and not felt, not
Hmm.
not known with your whole being. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, yeah, in the story, yeah, he there's this idea of his education is incomplete. He can only go through a few classes, and then he has to return home, and then you might say he's like a failure, but as you're pointing out, he has kind of a good spirit. He has a spirit of kind of going forward and trusting in his luck, trusting in who he is or whatnot.
Hmm. I'm actually, if I could say real quick, I do
Mm.
think that the fact that the money was not enough to cover the classes is a further sign that at least the story is trying to tell us the father's way of being in the world is not how you thrive and find success, because the son going to school and finishing the school and then having enough money to take care of the father was all part of the father's plan. So the father had this great idea of like, oh, well, I'll work hard, I'll put my son through school, he'll take care of me. But something about the father's way of doing it, like, did he not know? He doesn't seem mad at his son, like, oh, son, you wasted all my money. He's like, oh, wasn't enough. He wasn't enough for you. Now, sadly, you're back home stuck with me in the mud of our poverty. Um, and and so, but the whole idea of that came from him. So it was like he had this idea, but didn't have the spirit to animate it fully.
Mm.
Um, and I think that speaks to the spirit in the tree, but we can get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, his way was not enough, and his son is able to kind of fulfill that later. I think
Mhm.
I wrote to you in the email that this reminds me of Jack and the Beanstalk. It's like the way they're going is not enough, and then so the Jack has to do something seemingly crazy that doesn't make any sense to their idea to their experience. So they haven't
Mhm.
developed those senses yet, I guess you could kind of say. And then yeah, and then there is an upward or outward movement away from the normal world of work and toil into the mysterious, dangerous and risk taking, but then, with a reward at the end.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the father, when he comes back to work with the father kind of says, "No, this kind of work is too hard for you." And even though the son's not trained in it, he is able to do it some, not quite all day, but he is able to kind of work hard and try the old way. And to me, that was sort of meaningful that he's not aloof in any way. He's not like, well, I'm in a different class now. I'm a student, or I have a different future set out for me. No, he's still willing to kind of, I look at that as like do what's necessary or try what's in front of you,
Hmm.
before you sort of reject it, give something a good try.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, because it shows like it shows his willingness to open his experience to the father's experience or the father's world and not, like you said, not hold himself aloof. Whereas the father doesn't seem to be able to open himself to his son's experience because
Yeah.
the father keeps saying, oh, you'll find it too difficult. You're not used to hard work. You won't be able to do it. And I only have one axe. What are we going to do? Like
Yeah.
again, there's that stress. And the son's like, just go borrow an axe, Dad. It's cool. I can cut trees.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like he's got that sort of like, oh, I can handle it
Yeah.
attitude. And he's not, whereas the father is like, oh, I can't handle it, and therefore I have to work harder than I can handle.
Right. Yeah.
And yet ends up with no resources.
Right. Yeah. 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 The son is flexible. And then so yeah, his mind seems flexible too, because after the morning of working all morning where he did work hard, it's time to take a break, which you could say something about creativity here, where it's like, or getting into the flow state or something, where it is about working and maintaining focus for like a good time period, but then kind of taking a break and letting your mind wander a little bit, letting the default mode network come in. And that's sort of how I looked at their lunch break. So now that they have a break, and father's just like, okay, we just need to rest the body so that we can like resume the same thing right afterwards. But the son starts to, I want to go look at the birds. I want to venture out, take a walk in these woods. And later on, we learned that these woods are mysterious to him. He doesn't know his way around. And of course, as what was his name? Michael Mead, the one who did
Mhm.
the pod. As he points out, birds are a symbol of like spirits or something like that. And I had told you this reminds me of Cinderella, where the spirit of her mother seems to be connected to the birds later on,
Mhm.
with the tree that she plants. That's sort of at her mother's grave. That's sort of a representation of her mother. But anyway, yeah, there's the trees and the birds and the venturing out, and then yeah, he goes to that big tree, which I was impressed by the Oh, I'm sorry. I should also say, like, it was interesting that he's looking at birds and birds' nests. It sort of seems, it's like the story goes out of its way to tell you he's doing something that can be interpreted as stupid and frivolous,
Yeah.
which, and that sort of reminds me of, I don't know, scientist biographies or something, where they're doing things that, like, most people around them would look at as like you are an idiot, like you're doing something that has no reward. And that seems like something that is directly out of the father's mouth. Almost, you're doing something that does not have a direct reward, that we just do not know what the outcome is, and it is dumb, don't do it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I think this may be a direct pull from Michael Mead from the podcast, but it's a really good point, and I feel like it's worth bringing up that he's going and he's looking for birds' nests, um, and he's looking into branches to see if he can find birds' nests, and even when he finds the giant oak tree, his response to it is, many a bird must have built its nest in that tree.
Right,
So,
yeah.
so one, it's very frivolous, but if we look at it on a also because it's true, like it's frivolous, and there's this feeling of the son. Like if I'm watching the movie in my head, there's this feeling of like the father's working really hard, and the son's just like, I'm looking for birds, I'm looking for nests, like strolling through
Yeah.
the woods. It's a very different energy that the son's bringing. And from a symbolic level, like this is from the Michael Mead. He's constantly looking up. He's constantly looking for
Right.
something higher. He's looking for, I mean, if you look at a bird's nest, if you think of the bird as like spirit or maybe an idea or an inspiration or something that just kind of lands and comes to you, he's looking for nests, places where the birds. will land.
All
He's
right.
sort of
Yeah.
wandering, looking for ideas, looking for something to come in. And then when he gets to the tree, the thing that he finds isn't isn't an ascent. It isn't above, it's below and it's in the roots. And
Mm.
you have to go down and you have to dig for it. And I think that's very alchemical, certain types of spirituality. It's a descent into the earth, into the mud, that's where you don't that's where you find the genius. That's where you find the spirit that can give you the blessings. It's not something that you can just,
Yeah.
see in a little nest in a tree.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very good. Yeah. And that reminds me of Jack and the Beanstalk. First, to go up, he has to go down. He has to plant the beans in the ground.
Oh yeah.
Um, and yeah, also what you were saying is supported by how they describe that tree. They don't describe the other trees like this. It's like he's come to the center of the forest. It's like the beanstalk or, the Bodhi tree or the Christ's crucifixion cross, where, yeah, it's like connected to the navel of the earth with Joseph Campbell's idea. And it describes the tree as like this ancient, huge tree. It's like it feels like it's been there forever. Like five men could not span it with their arms. It's this really special tree, and it would be an interesting scene in a movie to kind of see him coming into this grove, and this tree is there, and it's a little terrifying. It's magical, in a word.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It says, many hundred years old that five men would not have been able to span. So like I'm assuming that means like five men couldn't wrap their arms around it together or span, maybe even measure it. But yeah, just the mental image of this giant tree. Um, I really see it as, I mean, everything you said was great about like the world tree and the cross and the center point. Um, And I was thinking of it as, and these might actually be the same thing. I was thinking of it as like an ancestral tree, like the family
Right.
tree, like because
Yes, very much.
it's many years old, many hundreds of years old. It goes, it's in the center of the forest. They've been sort of trimming around the outside. He comes into this sort of hidden grove. He finds this connecting point, and and to me, this story is all about connecting with sort of ancestral gifts, and which is backed up by the spirit being found in the roots, going down, going into the past. Um, but I have to wonder whether the the symbology of like the world tree, the axis that holds the world together, whether that's the cross or whether that's the Bodhi tree or whether that's what's the Yggdrasil in the Norse mythology, the
Hmm.
tree that connects all the worlds. Whether that's really different from like the tree of all of our ancestors, because
Hmm.
eventually, we all there's sort of the human race and life in general. Like we all sort of have this continuity that is growing like a tree grows.
Hmm.
Um, and and yeah, so just kind of the
Yeah, it
gifts that
seems
that
like both
has.
those are related, maybe at like a different scale, but I like that idea of it's like the family tree, and that seems to connect everything else in the story.
Hmm.
It connects him to his father, connects him to his schooling. And to me, that feels like so his father had this idea of advancing forward in time by giving him an education, having his son expand out into the world. But they're not quite ready. Something's not quite right. The money wasn't enough symbolically. And so, yes, instead to go forward, he need to go two steps forward. He needs to first take a step back. And this is him going deep into the forest, doing what his father's doing, but then making an adjustment on his own from deeper within himself. He presumably had that idea. And that would come from, yes, his DNA, his ancestors and things. And there's this idea maybe that the reason they are so poor is that his father maybe took a route that's not really fruitful for the future of their sort of line, their lineage.
Hmm.
And the boy has to correct the mistake of the father and go back. And so that's how the hero kind of like Horace, I think, kind of
Hmm.
in Egyptian mythology, kind of corrects the idea of his father Osiris. You know, Osiris was not really at the helm of leadership enough, and that's why Seth was able to kind of cut him up into pieces. But anyway, yes, the
Hmm.
boy kind of comes back, and now he has to fight the dragon or Seth or whatever who's calling out to him.
It's interesting. That's an interesting comparison because Osiris and Seth are brothers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Seth is Horus's uncle, and so you have so one of the key um, things in this story for me is that when he finds the spirit, and I do kind of want to, we can see if we'll go through, because we sort of left off with the bird nests in the tree, but he finds this spirit, and the spirit immediately comes out and is going to kill him
Yeah.
by surprise,
Yeah.
and like so there is a very, I don't know if this is a word, but Sethian kind of a thing, like because I think Set was going to kill Horus as well. He wanted to kind of rule, but in
Mm,
this case, we don't see the spirit trying to rule, but we do see the spirit attacking the sun.
mm,
And I think, to my mind, like from what I know about trauma work, which it always comes back to with me, but that's the lens I look at things through.
mm,
Um, Ancestral trauma will travel through generations and will affect people's personalities until someone's able to kind of turn and face the dragon,
mm,
metaphorically speaking, whatever it is that's been, and that's not to say for most people that the past generations made a mistake. Maybe they weren't able to, I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you can't say, like, the obvious example would be like the Jews in the Holocaust. You can't really blame the Jewish people for the Holocaust, right? So
Mm,
same thing, like our ancestors, obviously not that tragically disastrous, but a lot of Americans have most of my family is immigrants, I think 2 or 3 generations back at least. And so you come to a new place, you got to build a new life, you got to work really hard. Like that's not someone's fault for being like, here I am, I have to work, but they also have to deny parts of themselves in order to work that hard.
mm,
And that kind of heavy work ethic can, over time, atrophy the other parts of the soul
mm,
that have more of what the sun represents, the joyfulness, the wonder, the sort of trust in the, which I think the father was maybe able to buy him that through his sacrifice and through sending the son to college. So even there, the father is somewhat redeeming himself, even though it wasn't enough. It required the son to continue the journey.
mm,
So the son, like, he goes to this tree, this family tree, if we're going to look at it that way, and he goes into the roots of it. He goes into the past. He goes down into like the dark where things are hidden, and he finds there a spirit that is angry and wants to destroy things.
mm,
And I would have a hard time not mapping that onto the father's like unconscious. The father, I have to work really hard. I can't make enough money. I just want to be taken care of in my old age. I can't even do that. Oh, my son's useless. Like there's some under the surface in the father, there's something destructive. He's
mm,
reacting like, how do I put this? Like if the father were to have the redemptive experience that the son has of the father changing his mind and saying, "Oh, I'm just going to trust my luck. Oh, I'm just going to, if God wants me to succeed, I'm going to succeed." The what he would have to face his own anger and disappointment at the many years spent not facing this, at the many years spent just toiling under the fear of, oh, this isn't going to be enough,
mm,
this is going to destroy me. If I let this out of, if I follow my luck and my wonder, if I just let God's will determine things, I will be destroyed.
mm,
He's carrying that story in his head. That's why he has to work so hard. And
mm,
yet, when the son goes to find what is, I would say, what is God's will for him, this gift that his ancestors have buried under the tree, or that's buried with his ancestors under the tree, he has to face that spirit that his father's been carrying.
Mm,
of if I turn towards this, it's going to destroy me. I can't let it do that. I have to work really hard.
mm,
And to sort of step back from that, I have to work really hard. Then that spirit of anger, of that destruct, then that turns on you because you've been carrying that fear of destruction for so long. And so the son has to kind of prove himself against this spirit in
mm,
order to earn the thing that his father was not able to earn.
mm,
So that's like the crux of the whole story for me
mm,
is the fact that he finds it under the tree and the spirit first tries to kill him. And then once he proves that no matter what the spirit says, he's not listening to it. He's like, no, I'm going to put you back in the jar. I'm not going to let you out of. Like he
mm,
maintains this position of authority over
mm.
what the spirit is telling. He doesn't like his father would be like, oh yeah, you're going to destroy me. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
he
let you
would.
know. He would just sort of give up. But the
Yeah.
son's like, no, I'm gonna stand as an authority against this spirit. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that if you want to interpret it that way, it seems like having this whole big thing stuffed into a bottle does seem like appropriate for some kind of emotional suppression, something like that. There's this big thing that's very dangerous and dynamic, but we're going to just pretend like this little kind of thing, compartmentalize it.
Mhm.
Wait, and just to be clear, compartmentalizing is an important skill in life temporarily when you need to not break down or not you can't really address something, but also, yeah, there's the danger that you start to just you're always compartmentalizing and you're always pretending life is just the physical things around me and the material things, the money and everything. And then there was like 50 things now that I've compartmentalized. And then suddenly, my marriage is failing, or I have an ulcer that doesn't have a physical cause. And then I've been compartmentalizing all the time, so I have no idea how to deal with things. And then when I try to open a bottle, it does seem like it can kill me. Um,
That's really nice. Yeah, the shrinking of the thing and putting it away as like compartmentalizing, like you're saying. Like if we're looking at it through this lens, the father does exactly what you're saying. Or maybe it's if it's ancestral, some grandfather or something, but the father's buying along with that story. He's keeping it small, he's keeping it in the jar, he's keeping it angry. The son lets it out of the jar and it threatens him, and then he's able to say no, and he's able to put it back in the jar.
yeah,
And so he's able to compartmentalize, but he lets it back out. He's able
yeah,
to go back and forth between the two.
yeah.
And that's where he's able to kind of change his relationship to and this thing that's been a threat to him and his father and maybe beyond that becomes the bearer of gifts once he's
Yeah.
able to respond to it properly.
Yeah, and I think that's whether you look at it through trauma or spiritual growth or something, this seems like a very fruitful way to look at this thing. Yeah, it has this dual sides. Like it's very dangerous, and it is dangerous. It can hurt you if you can't deal with it. And he is able to use his wit, which is, I think, part of his character throughout the story. He's always able to use his words and his thinking to adjust to the situation, to live up to the situation and not let it destroy him. If we look so far, like you could frame this as like he is in a tragic situation. He's very poor. He doesn't have any other family besides his father. He fails out of school. He can or not fails, but his attempt to graduate from school fails, and now he's going to have to work at like a backbreaking job, and he doesn't seem like that's appropriate for him. And then he goes into the woods, and now he's approached by this thing that's going to kill him, that could very well kill him. Yeah, you could frame that all as like he's in deep doo doo right now, but yeah, but in each of these situations, he shows that he has a spirit that can negotiate and live up to the situation and not get overwhelmed by it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He doesn't let this fearful Mercurius. What are the guy's words?
Yeah, he is called Mercurius.
I am the mighty Mercurius. I must break the neck of whomsoever releases me. Um, I mean, such a threatening figure. And Mercurius again ties it back to Rome, like you were saying, the genius, the genie, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to link it to Mercury and Proteus.
Hmm.
It was just interesting just from the Wikipedia how much this ties into this story because Mercury is among some other things the god of and so Mercury, Roman, Hermes, the Greek god, but yeah, the god of boundaries. So he seems like this is on a boundary between life and death, between where he's at in life and going forward in his life. Commerce. In the Grimm brothers story that I have, they use more commercial language, like the wages of letting me out of the bottle are that I kill you, and it says strangle in that version. But either way, it's a killing without a letting out of any blood, which is kind of like a thing in a lot of cultures where. But anyway,
That's great.
Mercury
Yeah.
is also the god of trickery and a guide of souls to the underworld, which seems to underline the idea like how dangerous this is. He could die, he could totally change form,
Mhm.
and never come back. And yeah, the descent that is not followed by the ascent, like in Plato's Republic, or with famous Odysseus. He descends so that he can ascend. I mean, the point isn't to descend and then just like, oh, you're dead.
Right. Yeah, and finding the bottle of Mercurius in the roots, in the dirt. Like he's already like he descends and that's what he finds there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And even interestingly, the possible etymology of Mercury is trade and wages, or possibly a border, which it just seems like all of this stuff is related to change in life, this turning point in this story and in your life,
Hmm.
this part where you've been working or you've been playfully exploring, and now what's going to happen? What's the result?
Yeah. 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 And borders and boundaries and like the bottle itself is kind of like compartmentalizing is
Right,
drawing a border around something. And then
right.
if you, as we'd already discussed, if you push that away, then that's bad. But if you're able to like draw the border and then remember that the spirit is there and then draw the border, like that's you titrate it that way. You kind of work with it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the way you were talking about the father, how kind of fearful and angry he is. I mean, it's the story goes to say, when the genie, well, I'm calling it the genie, when Mercurius comes out of the bottle, uh, the scholar or the student addresses it fearlessly. And what did you think about how because I called it a negotiation because that's how I kind of felt like, and it's interesting that Mercurius frames this as like legalistic terms. Do you think I was just put in here, I was put in here as punishment. I'm a bad MF, like, and now I'm coming out and I'm gonna kill you, you know?
Mm,
That's
hmm.
how this is gonna go down. And the boy doesn't like, you know, accept that. He sees this as a negotiation and like, well, wait a second, and then, but yeah, how did you see that interaction? I was really struck by that.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. There's one of the lines that sort of landed funny for me and that like made me curious about it was trying to find it so I can quote it specifically. Yeah, yeah, where the son says, "However, my head is going to stay where it is until more people have been consulted." And the spirit says, "More people here, more people there. You
Yeah.
shall have the reward you've earned." And
Yeah.
I that had confused me because it's sort of like why are they bringing in more, like where does that come from? But with the perspective that you're offering of it as a negotiation or a
Yeah.
legal thing or almost a politics in the sense of like we're trying to find something here,
Yeah.
which is how you want to negotiate with these parts of ourselves that are problematic. Is like, okay, well, you have a need, but you're not in charge, and I'm not letting you tell me what to do, and we're going to get more parts of ourselves involved, and we're going to like
Mm.
find some kind of internal equilibrium,
Mm.
and the bringing in of more people is like a way of pointing to that negotiation, that business, that like business
Mm.
thing that you're talking about is like, well, we need some observers, we need somebody to come and like, figure all this out. And it turns out the son does not need
Mm.
somebody, but it's enough of a stalling tactic, and it sort of puts the spirit, because the spirit up until that point, I think the spirit is like, here's how it's going to be, kid. I'm going to kill you and you're going to have to deal with that. And then he says, no, we're going to bring in more people. And the spirit, like, more people here, more people there. Like, there's, it's suddenly defensive. The spirit's having
Yeah,
to
that's
defend
right.
itself.
Yeah.
And the power dynamic in the conversation has shifted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at this as like fighting words before a fight, and some people can take it as like, okay, it's going to happen. He doesn't take it that way, the son. Like
Hmm.
he takes it as like, okay, you've done an opening. Now I'm going to do something else. And then yeah, it shows the skill of the son, which, we can take to be he learned it in so-called school. Like we think of that as education, true education, uh, but true training, which he hasn't finished yet, but which he's finishing now in like some other type of environment, the another type of high school, a higher type of school, which he has to do by going lower. Uh,
Nice,
uh,
nice.
but yeah, and then yes, exactly. He reframes it. I before even before that, he starts framing things. It's almost funny because when the genie comes out and the story describes him, he's a terrible fellow. And it compares him to the size of a tree rather than the size of a human. He's this supernatural force. If you think of it emotionally, it's like this overwhelming kind of emotion where you're like you don't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
It's not a thing of everyday life. It's this horrible, horrible monster. And then yes, the genie says, "Do you know that what your wages are for having let me out?" And then the scholar says, he says, "How should I know that?" Fearlessly. Like that
Yeah.
is literally true. Like I don't know. Like you're trying to turn this into like I'm ignorant and I don't know what I have done and I'm about to get killed for that reason. And I'm turning into like I'm going to take your question literally and also show up emotionally as fearless. And then the spirit says, "Yeah, I'll tell you. I must strangle you for it." And then the son says, instead of like trembling, he says, "You should have told me that sooner, for then I would have left you in the bottle." Like, like, hey, he turns it into again, like, why are you if you had told me that before instead of just let me out, I wouldn't have let you out. So in a way, he's calling the genie a liar because the genie had kind of presented himself as a victim, and then he tried to suddenly reframe the whole situation when he had presumed dominance of the boy. He tried to reframe the situation, which is what all bullies do, which is what happens in politics sometimes. Like they show up with the army and it's like this is the terms in the negotiation. But then the boy, he reframes it as like, okay, we need to bring more people in. That increases his size in a way. Like, I'm not as big as you physically, but I'm going to bring more people in rhetorically. And yeah, yeah, I just look at the boy as being very, very skillful with his words here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, everything you've pointed to there is again holding him refusing to cede the center of the conversation to the
Yeah,
spirit.
yeah,
He's like, no, I'm
yeah.
in charge here. I'm in charge here. you're saying what you're saying, but I'm not. I mean, he's sort of like, but I'm. It's like kung fu or something. Like he's just sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
blocking
right.
everything that
That's
comes at
right.
him.
Yeah, yeah.
I also wanted to say, since you brought it up, reminded me that the spirit is a horrible fellow, and he is half as big as the tree. And if we look at the tree as sort of like I was, one facet of it, I was suggesting earlier, like the ancestral, the sort of the lineage, like whatever this spirit is, whatever this intense emotional thing that is coming up is only half as big as the tree. And
Right, yeah.
in the son or the student saying, "Oh, we're bringing in more people," I can almost feel him like in the image in my head, he's not like he's got his back to the tree somehow, and he like the tree's backing him up, and the tree is like all of the other people against this one spirit, and it feels like that like because the spirit's only half as tall as the tree, so the tree
Mm.
is like dominating the spirit, and the sun is kind of acting on the tree's behalf almost. I don't know. It
Yeah,
doesn't
that
say that,
sounds
but
good.
it's just how I'm seeing it in my head.
That seems like, yeah, two different ways of framing it, and one is empowering you and the other is disempowering you. The way I said it was that the spirit is comparable to a tree, so it's very scary for a human being. It's not, it's so much bigger you wouldn't even compare it to the size of a human being. But yeah,
Mm,
maybe the boy or you can see your problem in life in like a much larger context in terms of your the strengths that come from, the millions of years of evolution or your previous life or whatever, something that is this problem is really big, but it is not nearly as big as other more eternal things that I can draw on for strength.
mhm. Yeah, it's interesting because if you hold the spirit against the tree and you're like, oh, that's a big compared to that tree, that's a big spirit, but that's putting the tree and the spirit like outside of yourself. Whereas if like if you are identified with the tree, with the whole tree, like you're saying, then the spirit becomes like half your size, and all
Mm.
of a sudden it's smaller, and then you can shrink it and you can put it in a bottle, and it's much easier to manage, which he does do. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly. You're reframing your thinking of yourself as not alone, and together with the tree helps you to be able to use your strengths to trick the genie.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and in fact, he says, "Calm down, not so fast."
Yeah.
The student, it's so good. Calm down, buddy. Chill out.
And yeah, I liked that. I mean, I interpreted, tell me what you think, but I interpreted the spirit, the way he gets the genie back in the bottle, as it sort of made me think of what they say about exorcisms, that you have to know the name of the demon, and then you will have power over it.
Mm,
I wonder if that has to do with something about the demons all being egotistical in some way. But anyway, like
mm,
in this story, it seems like he is able to take advantage of the haughtiness uh, of the spirit. So it says the spirit said haughtily, "That is a very trifling feat." It's not like go back in the bottle. It's like he uses reverse psychology. Uh, you know, do and get can you go back in the bottle? Well, that's so easy. I'll show you. And, psh, and then, it goes back in the bottle and closes it. Yeah. Yeah, he
yeah.
gains control over this thing that was once terrible, monstrous, inhuman, other other than everything we know. And yeah, he's able to contain it and then he can gain its strength, right? Gain strength from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Um, the the exorcism thing is interesting, and the knowing its name is like I think of that as when you are dealing with something very unpleasant, sort of on a psychological level or spiritual level or whatever. If you don't know what it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a lot harder. And if you're like, oh, then if you're like, oh, this, I know where this comes from. I know what this is. I'm able to like relate to it and understand it. Um, it doesn't make it necessarily go away. That can take
Right.
other
Yeah.
work or, but knowing what it is definitely lessens its power.
Yeah.
And if you're able to command it, I suppose, not that I know much about commanding spirits or demons and exorcisms and stuff like that, but I imagine if you can command it by its name, then if you know how to command it, then you do have power and control over it.
Yeah.
And
I
he does show that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's about knowledge and knowing a bad spirit's name is symbolic of knowing what something that's been bothering you. Yeah, and if you don't even have a word for it, it might not, you might come up with a better word later, but if you don't have any word for it, how can you talk about it? How can you negotiate with it or dialogue about it? And it's likely to be something that's overwhelming you. I know
Mhm.
even sometimes in meditation, Vervaeke talks about how when it helps the focus to, let's say you're doing breathing meditation and you've been brought away by thoughts and you come back to the breath to do a quick labeling and not to think too much about it, not make that the meditation, but you
Mhm.
do a little quick labeling of like what that was, and
Oh,
that
like
helps to,
thinking.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that helps you to kind of settle that so that you can get back to the attention on the breath.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's I got two things I want to say actually. If well, I suppose we have time for it, right? Um, one is that there's the Buddhist group I used to work with in New York, not the Zen one, but a different one. Um, Zen people wouldn't do this, I don't think. But the other one is in the Burmese tradition. Noting was their main practice. So you would just sit and you would note everything. So you would note like
Mm,
if you're feeling you breathe, okay, breathing, okay, tension, okay, lightness, thoughts, and that just becomes your practice.
mm,
I think that's a main practice in like a lot of mindfulness traditions. I don't think it's, just this one line, but that was where I learned it from. And supposedly that's a sufficient practice. Like you can carry that'll carry you all the way, or whatever. It's not just like a introductory thing. The
thank you
more
for
you can
telling
do
me.
that, the less you get hooked on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that definitely. I feel like that will be very fruitful for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to say, uh, this sort of popped into my head when you were talking about the demons and the knowledge and stuff, that one of the key things in that mental framework is you have to know the demon's true name, right?
Mm,
It doesn't come up in the fairy tale so much, but you have to know the demon or the monster, but you have to know their true name. And I think, again, on a psychological level, it can be even as simple as like, if you are angry all the time or you have a lot of anger issues, but you never sit and get to know your anger, like really
mm,
sit with it, like he does with the spirit. We're like, okay, the spirit's out of the bottle, it's angry, it's there, but he's also standing there kind of holding his own with it.
mm,
That oftentimes, at least in my own, I can speak from my own personal experience on this, in that oftentimes if I've just been feeling irritable and angry and I can feel this like this kind of demonic spirit in my system, it's kind of anger, irritation, that if I sit with that, oftentimes what comes up is grief or sadness. And I don't always
mm,
have a label for it. Sometimes it's just something old in my system or something, but some
mm,
kind of grief comes up and it's like, oh, the anger was this bottle that I had my grief inside of, and mentally the anger was keeping me from feeling the grief. I would just get angry and then go
mm.
off on the anger. But if this is a demon or a problematic spirit in me, its true name is grief, and I've been calling it anger. And no wonder I can't command it. No wonder I can't stand face to face with it like the student does here with Mercurius, Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and it always ends up destroying me in the moment. I lose my mind, or I get meaning like, oh, I am angry. I'm just my anger. I'm not the person experiencing the anger. I'm not the person experiencing the grief. It takes over, kind
Yeah,
of thing.
that seems good. In this story though, he does say like he announces his name at first.
That is true.
So one does know his name, although his name is also the god that can change, right?
Right,
Or
right, right.
am I thinking of Proteus? I think I'm thinking of Proteus who can change forms a lot. And I
I,
wanted, I thought I might bring him in, but Mercury is the one that kind of shuttles you to different places, right?
I mean, Mercury's a messenger of the gods, or at least Hermes is. But I think Mercury, I mean, the element Mercury, um, very trickster, and you'll break apart into a
Yeah.
bunch of little things. Is it liquid? Is it metal? You're not quite sure. It's very
Yeah.
like boundary dissolving. It's very strange. It's uncertain. So
Yeah.
I think Proteus or Mercury, I think you're, you know, I think you're right
Mm.
to bring that up. That kind
And
of,
funny enough, Mercury is very useful, but also poisonous, right? For
yeah,
humans. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, you can die from mercury poisoning.
Hmm.
And I thought for this particular story, him announcing himself as Mercurius, trying to set forth such harsh terms and everything. Yeah, that was almost like a weak move, like you would almost want him to instead not make himself so big and to sort of take try to take advantage of the boy. But yeah, he may be is used to sort of just waylaying people and getting what he wants. He's used to people being terrified of him. And
Hmm.
this boy shows himself to be a hero and once again to be equal to the task that has been given him.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. He doesn't shy away from the spirit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you think of the gifts that he is given after he's able to tame the spirit? They're quite miraculous and amazing, and two different gifts, each of which would be like enough to completely solve and beyond the problems presented at the beginning of the story, right? Like if he's a great healer, he's able to make enough money for both of them way into the future, the rest of his life. And if he's able to turn things, any or iron or whatever metals into silver, he's also able to do that. But he's given both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure exactly what to make of that. I do like I will just mention briefly that the spirit has to ask him 3 times to let him out. He says no, he says no, and then he's like, well, all right, I could probably still um perhaps he will keep his word, and in any event, he will not get the better of me. So again, you see the student, sort of not giving into the spirit's story of control there and being like, oh, I can
Yeah.
handle this. And the spirit comes out, and the spirit's, very friendly at this point. Um, but yeah, if you rub a wound with one end, it's well, the first thing is he hands him a little rag that looked like a small bandage. Or I don't know what it says in yours, but the idea being, I would imagine I would think, no, it's supposed to be this magic wand or this enchanted, glove or something, but it's just this little bandage. It's just this little like rag that you would use, clean rag, I assume, but so to wrap up a wound.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, there must be something to that, like wrapping up a wound. Um, if we're going with the sort of trauma interpretation, a bandage, you know, wrapping up the wound with, or maybe there's something about
May
if you well give me 1 second.
mm,
The thing you were saying about contextualizing
mm,
the sort of locking it away, like that's sort of to bandage up a wound in a bad way. It's like to hide it, it's to put it away. And
mm.
whereas when he reclaims the spirit, the thing that was used to contain the spirit, the contextualizing becomes something that he can, now it is a rag, it is a bandage, it's not just the bottle anymore. So I could see sort of a correspondence there. Sorry, I had to kind of
No, no, no.
unpack
Yeah.
that. Yeah, did you want to say something?
No, yeah, that seems good. Like I had thought of the gifts. So sorry, this I had thought of the gifts as two different things, but actually, in a way, with the idea of alchemy, is it about turning lead into gold or something like that? It's kind of bringing out something. It's not just transformation, but it's the idea that you're bringing out something that was always inherent, but more valuable in the original substance, right? Which is kind of what healing is too, right? Like you have a wound, and then he rubs the cloth, the right side of the cloth on it, and then the natural health comes back.
Mm,
So we sort
mm.
of think of it as like getting rid of the wound, but it's more like no, restoring health is what's actually happening.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's sort of the uncovering of the original purity or the original wholeness. Yeah,
And that is
yeah.
maybe related to the whole story itself, which is about bringing out from the family, from the father, from the son, what was inherently possible for them. And the father had some idea of it. He sent the kids to school, but yeah, the son is the person who's able to finally face whatever he needs to face and bring out from the past the thing that was just tried to be tamped down before, the spirit that maybe previous people had just tried to bottle up and bring out what has in that inherently been possible the whole time, but people did not have the insight, did not have the proper spirit maybe that brought forth the insight to know how to do. They were just trying to chop down trees to provide for themselves. They weren't able to look up and try to see the bird's nest, the gifts, the divine gifts. Um, and to me, that's linked also to education. That's what the 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 son was presumably trying to get from the schooling is the education to form himself into something that is a gift to himself, his family, and the world, which he
Mm.
finally does end up becoming with this unprepossessing object, this simple cloth. This in my version it says plaster, bandage. Yeah, it's just this simple thing that this gift that keeps on giving.
It's interesting that it's yeah, I like the framing of it as like a simple thing because I feel like that's often how it's talked about in alchemy of, the stone. I mean the if we are talking alchemy, the sort of the two things that alchemy seems to sort of hold up as an end goal is the water of life, which brings immortality or heals all wounds, and the philosopher's stone, which turns lead into gold or facilitates that process. And this is an interesting thing that it's the story is giving him one simple object that is both of those things. And it kind of it implies something, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Hmm.
Um, that it's almost like something that I mean you were kind of pointing to this too, that something that we already have, sort of the health and the something that we already have, something simple that we can use, but that was used incorrectly before is being used correctly now, and it's able to both heal and provide for the
Right.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me want
Uh,
to know what it is, but I suppose that's what's the philosopher's stone? Like I'm not gonna we're not gonna work that out in the next 20 minutes, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I this is in a way why I like folk tales though, because they don't concern themselves so much with it's not philosophy or science. It's not trying to figure out the nature of the thing exactly, but it's just kind of telling you what it does and sort of how one is led to it in general. And then you can kind of through your experience and your rationality kind of figure it out in your life, you know. But that's only after you have the general structure of reality or psychological reality kind of put into you by these tales that you were told throughout your life from childhood that sort of programmed you in a flexible way, in the right way. And so, yeah, I like that the story, yeah, unlike say a movie or like a modern novel that might describe the cloth or that might make it a complex object or even a mysterious kind of complex object. Instead, it's just a simple thing because it doesn't so much matter specifically what it is, but what it does, and that's its nature.
Yeah.
And that may
Yeah.
be focusing too much on the object itself, searching for the philosopher's stone or the fountain of youth or the water of life is kind of like maybe a fool's errand or something, I wonder.
Mm. Yeah.
At least for
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
people, maybe. It may be it could lead one person to it, but 9 people would, ruin their lives.
Mm. Suppose so. I mean, if you can't stand up to the spirit in the bottle, don't open the bottle.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. Yeah, and then so he goes, so now he has the gift and the spirit, yeah, thanks him for his release now. Now that the boy has dealt with him properly, then the spirit can be released. He's not trying to kill anyone anymore. Like he's been
Hmm.
released from his prison properly and he's been controlled, but now he's no longer has a prisoner's or a murderer's or whatever a criminal's mindset. And he's not looking to punish others. He's not looking to throw others into Hades.
Mm.
He's going on and
Yeah.
just
Kind of lost that resentment.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have any more thoughts about that? That's interesting. The spirit himself is transformed.
Yeah. I almost feel like the spirit is, oh, there's this Rilke quote of like maybe all of our dragons are merely princesses that are waiting for us to be brave,
Mm,
something like
that's
that.
good.
Um, and I feel like, the if we are talking these sort of ancestral burdens or even just personal burdens from, from our past, from our own personal life, that that we think of as these terrifying spirits that, these things that we compartmentalize and put away and can't deal with and can't look at, that they, if we want an ontology, an explanation of the meaning of life or whatever, you have to be able to take those things into account. And so then the question becomes, well, why is it there? Why am I having this unpleasant experience? I don't want to be having this unpleasant experience. I can't seem to make it go away. So what is its reason for being? And what we see here is the student shows up and meets the challenge of of the demon, of the genius, the spirit that is going to destroy him. He meets it and he proves himself capable of handling that. And in response, he's given a gift. And so the spirit becomes the guardian of the gift. So the things that we compartmentalize and lock away can be seen as guardians of our gifts if we're able to turn to them and relate to them fully. That would be why we wouldn't want to just chop this part of ourself off forever, because
Mm,
ultimately there's something in there that is good and beneficial that's trying to get integrated in with the whole of ourself, but is unable to do so because we're not able to rise up like the student son is and actually meet it fully and
yeah,
show that we can contain it,
yeah,
you
that
know?
seems right. Yeah, the dragon becomes, yeah, I don't know. I think of like maybe it's this, I don't know if there's a story like this, but it's like a wolf that was attacking you. Now you master it, and now it's like a dog that's your helper.
Hmm.
It's a part of you. It's a part of, your family, your home, and everything. And yeah,
Yeah.
that seems right for life. Like if there's something that's really bothering you. It could be outside yourself or inside yourself. It could be, your kid that has this major problem and this behavior problem or something. And if you're able to meet it and work with it and kind of solve it, then then like you're a loving duo again. And that seems right. Yeah, the spirit gives him gifts that help him on his way, and he also gave the spirit the gift, whatever the gift was, self-control, or yeah, the spirit lets go of his own demon, so to speak, and is able to kind of go on his way.
Mhm. It's almost like the spirit was like putting on an act of like, but a very serious one of like, I'm going to kill you. And if the student had been like, it's going to kill me, then the spirit would have killed him. Like he would have actually died. Um, maybe. But because he doesn't, because he stands there and holds the center point he doesn't let the spirit dictate the narrative,
Mm,
he's able to show that the spirit does not need that kind of threatening voice with him. And if the spirit is protecting the gifts, you need to be strong enough to wield those gifts.
mm,
And so that's why, for example, the father never would not have been able to
mm.
face that, would not have been able to become worthy of the gifts, able to hold the gifts and manage them. But the son is able to do it through the education he got from his father.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
And then so he goes, so now the son has this remarkable gift that he can use. But then I thought it was interesting that he goes back to the father. The father, of course, discounts the cloth, and then the son, on his first attempt to show the value of his new gift, he fails. Like he rubs the axe and turns it into silver, and then he does deal a mighty blow. So it shows that he has the strength. But yeah, he screws up this first time because he misuses the gift. You're not supposed to try to chop down trees with silver, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah,
But to
yeah,
me, that showed that, yeah, when you first get a gift, you come into realization of something, you're probably gonna not know how to contextualize it into your life, how to bring it back into your life. It'll take some time.
yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting I like that perspective because it does call out that integration period that you're talking about. And I did not see it that way. Um, and I think that that's important because he does try to use it right off the bat. But I will say the way I was looking at it was I was seeing him like pulling one over on his dad.
Mm,
Like um because I found it kind of funny that like the axe head turns to silver and the
mm.
father's not like, one, wow, what a shiny axe, what did you do to
Yeah.
it? Or two, like, what the heck, you were chopping wood with this axe all morning and all of a sudden it's bent back on itself.
Mm,
Why has that happened? Like the father doesn't really show any kind of curiosity, and he
yeah.
still stays within this story of like, oh, this is more disaster. This is the world is terrible and
Yeah.
everything
He
is
still has his
terrible.
tunnel vision.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. He's not
Um,
open at all. He doesn't notice it's turned into silver, which can
yeah,
solve all your problems right there.
exactly, exactly. And the son kind of sets him up for almost like in in the way like you would set up a surprise party or something, right? He's like, "Oh, come on, Dad, let's just go home. I'll go sell the axe. I'll see what I can get for it." And so he's like playing along with his dad's story while setting up this experience of like, surprise, I came home with 300 thalers or whatever the
Mm.
coinage was. Um,
But yeah, either way, I think his father would not it seems right that his father or other people you're familiar with would not recognize the change that
mhm.
has happened in a person.
Yeah.
They're still viewing it through the old frame.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, and when he does try to trick his father a little bit, after he hits the tree with the silver axe and it bends the axe back and doesn't work as an axe. And he goes, "Hello, father. Look what a bad axe you've given me. It has become quite crooked." So he does seem to be, yeah, messing with him in some way. I looked at that as I wondered if it was defensive or something, but yeah, it
Hmm.
makes sense that he's maybe trying to get his father to see, like, hey, this is not an axe anymore. This is an axe-shaped, very valuable piece of silver. Like, do you see kind of what's happening here? The axe that you gave me is totally different. But yeah, the father, what have you done? Now I shall have to pay for that. So he's still viewing it in the old through the old lens. And then
Hmm.
the son kind of seems to meet him where he's at. His language didn't work, so now he meets the father where he's at. Don't get angry. I will soon pay for the axe. And to me, that shows the skill of the son, because he's still, again, he's still willing to like meet the situation where it's at. You know, when one thing doesn't work, he doesn't go, "Oh, you're tied to the old ways. God, Father, can't you see that this is silver?" He ends up showing him rather than telling him, and in his words he meets the father where he's at, which
That's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, just it's got that like bodhisattva vibe of like enlightenment, and you come back to the world and you meet the world on the world's terms. You don't try and
yeah,
force it to see anything. You don't force the father to be like, "Look, it's a silver axe, you moron."
yeah.
You
And
know?
I
Yeah.
don't you think that's the better way when you're dealing with people, is to meet them where they're at, and then yes, ideally to show not tell, show
Hmm.
in your example, or show them in the story they literally have a valuable silver that he can show them the money and everything, to gradually kind of bring them into the new situation rather than kind of break the relationship and, you know you're an idiot, why aren't you seeing what I'm seeing?
Hmm.
Like it that would seem to show that you haven't really, yeah, integrated, or that your new gift, or you're not very skillful.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then yeah, so then when the student says don't get angry, then the father gets more angry. You blockhead, with what will you pay for it? You have nothing. So he's still thinking of this is just he's just thinking in his narrow way of like money and things have the same value that he's always thought that they had in
Hmm.
his narrow way of looking at things. And then it says after a while, the scholar said. So it seems like the scholar, his words aren't really working to change the father's vision. And then so he just kind of lets it go. He has patience and just is silent for a while, which is, not common in this story for the scholar to be silent.
Hmm.
He's normally kind of like we know he's very skillful, he's negotiating, but sometimes I guess there's a time just to be silent. And then after a while, the scholar says, "Father, I can really work no more. We better take a holiday." So again, he's kind of it seems to be pointing to don't keep doing the same old thing, to try to change, and maybe we should take a break.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I feel like that's a further step in what you were saying of like meeting the father where he's at. Is like, okay, well, hey, you're not noticing the silver axe. You're not accepting me saying I'll just pay for it. You're working really hard. I'm going to let you do that. And then after a while, I'm going to say, hey, let's take a break. I'm tired. I don't know how to get home. Can you help me? Like he's sort of hooking the father with the father's own desire to solve problems or to,
Yeah,
be of service, or like be of service in the way that like, oh, I have to work hard to earn money to pay for your school or to make sure we're okay, or hey, hey, Pop, I need you to be okay. I need your help to get me home okay.
yeah,
Will you help me with that?
yeah, and
Instead of
looking in
like,
this is
okay,
like,
old man, let's take you home.
mm. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. He's not
That's
trying. The father's already angry, so when someone's angry, you're not gonna try to show that you're superior in assessing the situation, it's good to humble yourself, joke about it, or make yourself look kind of silly or stupid or something. Then they'll kind of calm down. And but he's able to, the son is able to do that, and but still to get his message across, like let's take a break. And then yeah, the father is still like his response before when the son had said, "Don't get angry, like, please don't get angry." He says, what? Do you think I will sit with my hands lying in my lap like you? I must go on working, but you may take yourself off home." And then, yeah, like you said, he says, "Okay, I'm just a babe in the woods. Like, I don't know how to get home." And then the father's anger abates. So the son is still playing. The son has in a way surpassed the father with his new gift, but he
Hmm.
still is able to humble himself. And I look at that as in a way like being proper with your father and still kind of being humble and showing respect. And let it's not like you show respect by being a woodcutter the rest of your life.
Right. Right.
But he still does, he still goes on and does a little bit of work or something, or is patient, and he does meet the father halfway, so to speak, and does not try to show that he's superior or anything like that. He's still playing the role of the son,
Mhm.
which I think there's something in the Bible about this. But anyway, about Jesus when he meets his parents again, Joseph and Mary, and he's not lording it over them, not to use some kind of pun there, um, but he's still I think in some way, yeah, even if you are some kind of, you have some kind of amazing gift, or maybe you're super successful in life, you come home to your roots and you don't try to kind of show how superior you are to your immigrant family or something, that
Yeah.
didn't have that possibility for the education.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole attitude towards the father is one of respect, I feel. Even though he's like sort of lying to him or tricking him, like he's doing it to help bring the father slowly out of his worldview into a place where he's like, okay, I'm taking this holiday. Okay, I'm home early. I'm going to deal with this axe problem. Like, and that sort of gets him ready to actually get what he wants, which he's been,
Yeah.
unable to manifest or to achieve this whole time. Of like, hey, there's enough money to live off of. You can rest. You
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, he's solving the problem while not looking like he's the superior problem solver.
Hmm.
He's which is really solving the problem, because if you had acted superior, you'd be causing a new problem.
Hmm. Or the father might have just said no or gotten angry or like who knows.
Mm.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then yeah, the son, they go back to, I guess, their village, and the son carries the axe to the goldsmith, and it's worth so much that it's more money than the goldsmith has on hand. And to me, that's another case of where, yeah, this gift that he risked everything for in a way, or, uh, he risked death supposedly. Uh, and now it gives so much that, like, his old village, the people at his home just cannot even contain that gift. So then he goes
Hmm.
out in the
Hmm.
world, I think, and kind of, is like the doctor, kind of helping everybody. And so in that way, he's sort of like the Buddha or Jesus or something, where they venture out. They've been given this gift from their origins, and they've surpassed it, and they're now using their gift for the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's able to make enough just with that one axe for his for his father to be okay and for him to go back to school and finish his studies. Um, Although it's kind of funny, he does go back to school and finish his studies, even though he he becomes a famous doctor because he's got this cloth that just cures everybody of anything.
Yeah.
But I don't want
What did you
to.
think about that he goes back to school and finishes his studies?
It seemed in character with him being kind of like a noble person, a the good son, um,
I thought so too. Yeah,
to
he
just not
dots all
leave
his
something
I's.
unfinished. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought also maybe it's like even like say in the with meditation, even after you have an awakening experience, like the one we read about with Yamada Koan last time,
Hmm.
uh, you still go back to your practice. You know, you're trying to further. Um, I don't know. It almost sounds like a Japanese idea or something that, you know, of like continual perfection. You know, it's like you've had this amazing experience, you had these gifts, this insight, but then you go back and you continue to practice, continue to try to get better. You're and at least that shows humility, you know, at least that builds your virtue still, right?
Mm, nice. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, because if he just shows up with this thing, he's like, "Hey, I can cure all your wounds. Come on down." Like that's going to cause some issues, I imagine. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you think about those gifts just in the story's world, yeah, that could be problematic. You could,
Hmm.
you know, if you don't have the ability to contain those, to, I don't know, what could you say, to use those gifts correctly, yeah, you might start to, they might start to run away with you. Being
Yeah,
able to, yeah, you have to have, with great gifts come great responsibility, you know, and you need to be able to use those properly.
yeah. And I think it's a further reflection of like like we were discussing the way he meets his father and sort of doesn't, wave the silver axe in his face, but he's like, okay, I'm gonna walk you through these stages and you'll get there. If he is going to become a doctor, being like, oh, I went to university and I'm a doctor and this is how I doctor people. And also, by the way, here's my little cloth. I'm just gonna, wipe that wound. I'm just gonna wipe that down and we'll see how it goes. And oh, look, it's all better. And then it's like, okay, it's not just this one cloth. It's like it reinforces the whole social structure, and people are able to meet that gift in a more natural way. It doesn't feel so from another level, like it's meeting the world on the world's terms.
Right, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's very, very good. Yeah. So yeah, he has a gift, presumably, yeah, from another world and everything, and he could presumably use it to almost to enrich himself, to make himself look like some kind of half god, half man type of thing. And yeah, to not contain it, but yeah, he's still using it to humbly kind of just to do to do good in the world.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Any other thoughts you had about this one?
Well, I don't know if we want to get too far into this, but when you emailed me about this one originally, you had talked about sort of a difference between um, in this kind of work, like going into wholeness and connection, or in something that's more solipsistic, or individualism. Um, and I don't know if there's anything to unpack there, or if maybe we've already touched on it, but if not, I'd love to kind of go into that as well.
Yeah, that might be fun. Yeah. So I had written, do you maybe I should just read that little paragraph that I wrote about the genius idea and
I mean, yeah, if you
kind of
have it, yeah,
talk
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah.
So I'd written so I do, well, I guess two paragraphs. I do think there could be a danger of solipsism in this idea, this ultra self-centeredness, if people are not careful to link their search for genius to patient work and virtue, as the boy in the genius myth does. A core of the genius idea, it seems like that of the acorn in the old way of understanding an acorn, as explained by the speaker in the podcasts that we're linking to, seems to be irreducibility of the human soul, which seems like a salutary myth in our time of fracture. A fracture not only of the world, of the country, of families, but of the individual human. And like the woodcutter father in the genius story, people often try to keep their nose to the grindstone and double down on the ways they've been going, which I think to be individualism in modern culture. So I wonder, with a hint of drama, as it seems like I do, how this genius idea could play out in our time. Whether we go with some type of wholeness and connectedness to our deep roots and the whole of the forest, so to speak, or whether we go into a sort of solipsistic inner gold hoarding and this idea that no one else truly appreciates the gold that we hold inside of ourselves, and maybe without any sort of cultivation or any sort of educational journey. So, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm. Hmm. The yeah, the dichotomy that you're setting up is interesting because I can feel on the one hand the the depth of connection, like you say, with the forest, with the whole forest, with the roots, with the sort of like being part of a system versus the the hoarding. Like that's kind of where I get a little stuck is like versus the individual versus like yeah, the danger there. Like if you could unpack that a little bit, what's on the other side there?
I guess, yeah. So, I think from this story, it's clear that the idea of the genius slash genie is very powerful. The idea of there is something that is seemingly very, very small and that then can be unlocked, or maybe it bursts forward unexpectedly. And it's shown to not be tiny and contained, but very dangerous and or powerful. So very, very powerful can be dangerous, can be beautiful and helpful. But I think this idea of the genius, yeah, one could sort of hoard it and use it for one's own benefit only and not try to benefit others. So to profit one in one's own life without helping others. And I just feel like the genius is supposed to help others, just like we talked about how the it kind of comes from your your ancestors, your past, the human race, etc. And you ultimately cultivate it within yourself, and there's lots of points on that journey, but eventually you sort of grow up and you have your high school degree, like in the story,
Right.
and then you go out and you use it to help others. It's not just to enrich yourself. And I feel like sometimes it can be depending on the gift in your life, and you can use it to make others whole and or happy, heal others or whatever it is, enrich others. Or there is a danger of sort of the the cognizance of your gift. You might start to use it in an egotistical way. I think that's all that I was saying, and I was also trying to apply it to our larger world, where if we have this idea of the genius, which I think can help to kind of, I don't know, heal and bring wholeness to our sort of fractured identity in our world, and this very individualistic, sort of self-centered idea, and I think immature idea that we have of life. I think the genius idea can be very powerful for us, but just as in, I don't know, many stories, we can, instead of taking this genius idea and bringing it forth and helping it to heal the fractures and to to unify us, it we can use it to further, uh, you know, our own individual kind of identity.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's super clear. I love that. Or at least I think I understand it. So let me kind of reflect back and you tell me if what I say, at least aligned with what you're saying. But what I'm picking up there is this sense of both a necessity for power, of our genius,
Mm,
this power that would inhabit us,
mm,
that would sort of come from us. Um, the fear of it being misused,
mm.
you
That's right.
know. And I think one of the things I know that I struggle with, I believe it's one of the underlying like social problems with our societies, and I don't think we're necessarily very aware of it, but I think a lot of people carry this idea that power inherently of itself corrupts.
Yeah.
And therefore we end up in a world where powerful people are corrupt, but they have power. And so, as someone who doesn't feel like I'm corrupt, I must be powerless. And that perpetuates the whole system. Like that, if that's a core myth unconsciously, an unconscious myth, something that we're carrying around, then we're always going to see any attempts at coming into our own genius as well, I don't want to do that because then I'll turn into a villain, right?
Yeah.
But then that leaves power for the villains.
Yeah.
Then there's no powerful hero to like stand up against them. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
that's
talking
right.
Saturday morning cartoon ethics, but it's still valid. Um,
Well, I
you
think
know,
yeah, the hero story too, though, and yeah.
yeah. So I see that being like the our version of the spirit in the bottle, right? In that, oh, if I step into my power, I will become evil.
Mm,
Not I'll
mm,
be killed, but my soul will be killed. I'll be
yeah.
evil. I'll be solipsistic. I'll be individualist. I will hoard all of it. I will not be
Mm,
of benefit to people.
mm,
Um, but and there is the danger of that. The spirit can kill the student here.
mm,
But I also think if the student never never found the bottle, never opened the bottle, didn't measure himself against the genius, he'd be cutting wood his entire life. And somebody else, would be in charge, would be, ostensibly the powerful evil people. One of the
yeah.
things that I really like to keep in mind for myself in that phrase, power corrupts. I think that this sort of stereotypical phrase is power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Hmm.
And the guy that wrote the Dune books, Frank Herbert, says it a little differently. He says power attracts the corruptible.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
Yeah, and I think the way the what that opens for me is if power corrupts and the more power you have, the more corrupt you get, then you just don't want to be powerful.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but if you say power attracts the corruptible, then it becomes an act of service to step into power and try and not be corrupted by it.
Yeah.
And then that gives you the strength to open the bottle, confront the spirit, try and claim your own power because there has to be a world where there's a third option between weakness and corruption.
Yeah.
There has to be, or we're all fucked,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
somebody needs to stand up for that.
Yeah.
We
No,
all
I
need to,
told yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, I agree. And I think in that case, for those who are sort of maybe afraid of having power, or they have this myth, this idea in their mind that, yeah, any power corrupts. I think this genius myth can help with that. That
Mhm.
I don't want to stay home and never try to seek out the playful adventure that will test me and that will bring out my gifts, that will give me the genius to go forward into life and to heal people and bring value to my family and to others. I think the genius myth can help with that.
Mhm.
And I think that's the good version of the story. I
Yeah.
just think one wants to contextualize it too, to be careful, to where if we could bring this story forward 40 years and the kid is now 50 years old, you could bring some kind of Mephistophelian kind of figure in. And now this is a second uh, demonic spirit that is now a match for the boy's wits and that can tempt him. You can cure all of the, you've only been healing one person at a time, and you've healed many thousands of people and inspired many more. You have not touched the most of humanity, and there's some kind of, I don't know, golden orb or something where you can now heal a whole continent or even all of everybody. You just have to do this horrible thing too,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And so to me that's another turning point where, yeah, that people have to be aware of. I think the genius myth is good when you're the student's age, you're starting out, and at whatever age you are physically,
Hmm.
it's important for, like you said, especially people that maybe are unsure, feel weak, or feel are afraid of being corrupted at all, and so they never like take that first step into politics or whatever it is.
Hmm.
That,
Hmm.
and yeah, we do need good people. We don't want just the narcissists and the psychopaths that like say, hey, I'll take that political power, I'll take that worldly power, thank you very much. We need, yeah, good people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. And I don't mean like they're doing horrible things. I think that's the way we tend to think of that, but I think of just literally dirt, like getting in the dirt instead of always being so aloof from everything, and you're making pronouncements and you're holier than thou, and you're too good to ever do anything in this actual world.
Hmm.
I think the
Hmm.
genius myth can help, but yeah, I'm just thinking also of maybe also of the sort of the narcissistic or psychopathic or whatever, bad, whatever you want to say, uh, tendency to kind of to try to, yeah, use the idea of the genius, the irreducible specialness of a human soul to their advantage. Yeah, they're not trying to heal others or.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything we were touching on with the student after he comes back from the spirit and the way he interacts with the father and the way he goes to school and he like picks up the worldly life where he left it off and doesn't, let this thing take him off into other realms. I think all of that is sort of hinting at the right way to go about what you're talking about, to meet the world where it is. If you do happen to come into some kind of power, like if you're a politician, meet your constituents where they're at, listen to them.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
there to work on their behalf. You have this power on their behalf. You're not supposed to use that power for yourself. It's not your power. You work on their behalf, the system gets better, you're taken care of, everyone's taken care of, like everything gets lifted up together if the one that's above like cares for the ones that are below. But if they just want to build themselves higher and higher and they don't really care who's underneath them, the whole thing will collapse eventually,
yeah,
because it's not reciprocally feeding itself. The top needs to take care of the bottom, and the bottom needs to support the top for the whole thing to kind of stay alive, like a tree. If you don't have the roots, or it gets too big for the roots, like it's going to fall over, right?
yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, in that way, this story, the end of this denouement of the story helps to teach us how to deal with a great gift and how to not have it corrupt us.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're
Hmm.
you're meeting the father, you're dealing with the goldsmith, you're still dealing with everyday life. And even hearing that part of the story, the end of the story, I feel a little bit more grounded. I
Hmm.
think when he gets the gift, yeah, you can start to try to take off into flight. But, no, every bird needs a nest. You need to come back down to earth and and yeah, meet people where they're at, and
Mhm.
to have that kind of fluid skill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very hopeful myth or fairy tale. I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that. I mean, I guess it does end in a happily ever after, but it doesn't end with just like and everything's resolved. You know, it's sort of like he goes back to school, he becomes a doctor, like yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, yeah, I liked that. It eased back down in a helpful way.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, really
cool.
enjoyed this. We'll try to maybe choose another one for next time.
Yeah. Sounds good.